Three NFL games left and two pick'em shows left, so we could make some money off these remaining games. The conference championships are here. Trevor is decked out, and you should join us on stream so you can see his new backdrop, his new gear. But it's time to make some money with these two games coming up this Sunday. This is the Player Profiler Pick and Power Hour, starting now. Welcome back to the Player Profiler Pick and Power Hour. We are your hosts, Ahaan, Rungta, and Trevor Tipton. For the penultimate time this season, Trevor, I'm already getting a little emotional. You know, we started the season kind of hot with the primetime collabs. Then you went on a ridiculous streak. Then I went on a little streak myself, second half of the season. And last week we kind of sucked on the underdog stuff, but some of it was poor luck. Some of it was bad reads. But Trevor, I know you're really focused. You know, deep down, you're only focused on one thing right now. Conference championships, you're decked out. If you're not live on stream, I don't know what you're doing. You got to get these underdog projections with us live. Make sure you do that for the Super Bowl episode next week. And make sure you can see Trevor all decked out in 49ers gear when the 49ers clinch a Super Bowl spot.
Yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. This is our year. Like, this is our year to win. Like, if you actually saw FanDuel dropped look-ahead lines, and we're favored in both cases. So I like it. It's I'm here. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. We were talking a little bit about before the show, like in pure betting terms. I like where the line's stuck, that everybody's on Detroit now. You'll see my picks are what I believe is going to happen in the game, and I'm excited. I'm actually really excited for the Ravens-Chiefs game. I think it's going to be a big game. We did just get some like breaking news though that I don't know if you saw the alert. I mean, we kind of figured it would happen, but where is it? Let me pull it up here. Joe Thuney is out now, confirmed for the Chiefs. That's a big blow. Right? Like that's a blow for them. So it's actually another reason I like my pick'em here. It kind of ties into that. I'm excited to see Mark Andrews back. So I'm excited. Let's get started breaking down.
Yeah, and I want to make this clear a bit because I was on another show recently, and Detroit fans over the course of the playoffs have started to not like anything I say, really. I mean, if I'm making picks my priority is to just win no matter what. But I'm also, you read my Bet Openly, my Bet Openly piece with Trevor that's coming out later today or tomorrow morning. And I have a pick on the lines. Trevor, you also are backing a line in that article, and your team is literally facing them. Lions fans, don't come at me when I do literally anything to suggest that the Lions might not play a perfect game, okay? Your defense is a bottom 5 unit in the NFL, has been all season long. They're the worst defense to make the playoffs. Your offense is great, but before the Lions fans come here in chat and start barging me for saying, the Lions might not win this game. They're underdogs by 7 points for a reason. Be happy you're here. Be grateful. Don't come at me. That's my rant about the Lions. But I too am excited about this Chiefs Ravens game. Anthony, who's an OG in the Facebook chat or in the YouTube chat, says Detroit fans wouldn't be happy if you picked them straight up and to not cover. Detroit fans definitely deserve their moment in the sun. But I too am confident that the 49ers win this game. We'll talk a little bit more about each game coming up. And I'm excited for this Chiefs-Ravens game because if you've been following my betting work with the article stuff, the video stuff that I do for Player Profiler, you know that I have a future sitting on a Baltimore Ravens versus San Francisco 49ers exact Super Bowl matchup. I have also released a teaser for this one that is up on playerprofiler.com/articles already. And that is a Chiefs 49ers teaser. If you want to go read why I'm playing it that way, go ahead. It feels like somewhat of a hedge, but I do think this Chiefs Ravens game is going to be a great game. And I think it could get a little ugly too. Poor weather, the Vegas total is a little low considering who these teams are. Anthony says he's also got his SF Baltimore future too, and a line Super Bowl. So Anthony is in good position here. But you can chalk up the line Super Bowl ticket. That's dead this weekend. I'll say that for you, Trevor. Okay.
Yeah, that's a rough way to go. So I actually broke down on Twitter today, if you want a way to really like hedge, if you think your team's going to win the Super Bowl, the best way is to go right now and grab the exact matchups. I got, I did a 49ers versus Baltimore, 49ers versus Chiefs, one at 275, one at 490, because right when they win this week, next week I'm going to get it for like minus 110 to minus 140 on the money line. Why would I do that when I get they got one game to play, but this is a good spot. There's just too much on the line. I'm sorry you wasted that money on that ticket, but it was fun. And if you've listened to the show all year, we love the Detroit Lions. This show loves the Lions. Like, we have played a lot of Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. Our season-long entry had a Detroit Lion in it. David Montgomery. Like we love the Lions here, but they're about to get like boat raced out of the building here. Like this, unfortunately, if you're not a 49ers fan, this game might not be fun to watch. We're not the Rams defense, and we're not Tampa Bay's defense, which they played okay, but this is a different level. We got mostly everybody healthy. We do have, we have some holes in our secondary, but Goff's going to have some issues. We'll talk about that. But like I said, too, I'm excited for KC and Baltimore. I think that's actually probably going to be the better game to watch. So it's there. There's some unique opportunity. And I'm going to let you start off breaking it down. So
I don't know when I cut off there, but the schedule cut off.
Nothing. You said nothing. It wouldn't be a show without your mic cutting off. Like, it just wouldn't be a show. Like, now we can actually start the show.
Shout out the Podfather who sponsored this headset, and this headset has lasted, it lasted about the first 10 weeks of the season, no problem. But after that, it's been questionable. Anthony does ask in the YouTube chat, if you are listening in podcast version, make sure for the Super Bowl show next week, you're live with us. We're going to craft live on YouTube Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Anthony asked in the YouTube chat, I was going to ask you about the hedge. I have a long Detroit from summer. Do I go double down and go Goff MVP? I think you're just trying to trigger Trevor at this point. This over-under on cutout Ahaan at 3.5. Well, we're at 1 right now, so the live line's probably like 4.5. Regardless.
On that hedge, you can do it that way, Anthony, that I broke down. If you go to my Twitter, go look at what I did, and you can take San Francisco versus Baltimore versus KC, and you can hedge out some money that way, right? I don't know what you have your ticket for, but go to my Twitter. I literally did a post on it today, and you can hedge it out that way. That'll let you take some money and have it there. But I know he's half serious, but it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, if they were to win, Goff would have to have an MVP performance. Like, right. If that were to happen, like, that's what they'd have to do. But I don't see it. So, so yeah, let's get to this KC and Baltimore game. I'm excited to talk about this game.
KC and Baltimore, and not only is this a good opportunity, you did mention your Twitter. I feel like we've never talked about your Twitter. If you don't follow Trevor already, go follow him at FFC later. As your fellow co-host, give Trevor a follow if you haven't already. For some reason, you've been listening to the show and don't follow Trevor already. He's been quietly hot with first touchdowns this season, which is the most random thing to be hot on, considering how responsible Trevor usually is with his betting and his pick'ems, etc. Regardless, let's get right into this slate. We are live sharing our screen as we go to the Super Bowl show. Mark Andrews is back. It's the biggest storyline for the first game. As Trevor just mentioned, Joe Thuney also out for the Chiefs. It kind of ties into one of the picks that that Trevor's going to make. One of the picks we have in our underdog pick generator as well, which we were both on the same page on. So if you want to craft like five-piece entries, stuff like that, if you want to craft more entries than just the ones we have on the show, you need to have the DFS Dominator. It's probably too late for this season to grab the complete package for the DFS Dominator. But for next season, if you have the DFS Dominator, you get DFS lineup advice from the analytics team over at PlayerProfiler. But you also get early leans for us for every single week of the NFL season for the pick'ems, for the Sunday slate, Monday slate, etc. The entire season. We are cold the last couple of weeks, but we're still over 56% on our picks this season. And several people have sent us slips of them hitting entries 5-leg based on our picks in the pick generator. I'm going to start this time with giving out the first picks of the show, because I'm going to just craft an entry for this KC versus Baltimore game and let Trevor have most of the limelight for San Francisco. Starting off here, it's a kind of a rainy game. I'm going with maybe the weirdest pick I've made in this show's history, which is Gus Edwards higher than 4.5 receiving yards. So hear me out. First off, if you are one of those people who like taking player props based on what they've done the last few games, you're not going to like this, because he's not hit this in 3 straight games. I've had a process this season, and I haven't had the guts to take one of these on the show, but I put them in the pick generator whenever this process does show up, which is when a running back who is not a big pass catcher, has a line somewhere like this, like the 2.5 to 3.5, 4.5 area, kind of those one catch running back type of fellas. Whenever you see one of those on the pick'em board, it's an alarm, especially if they haven't done something the last few weeks. It's because Vegas thinks that they're going to have more of a receiving role. The first time I did this was Dalvin Cook with the Jets a few weeks ago. He hadn't done anything the last few weeks, but we kind of saw a hint of his route participation going up. And that's what we see with Gus Edwards here. In his last game, he had 2 targets, 1 reception for -1 yard. This is essentially 1 catch. Something extremely interesting about this is, if you look, I've been keeping an eye on this for the last few games, and Gus Edwards' receiving line on the books has been 3.5 the last few games, but it's now 4.5 after he hasn't gone over this in 3 straight. So essentially we're asking for 1 catch, because he's done this in almost every game where he has 1 catch. He usually gets at least 5 yards out of it. This is just simple line read. You gotta read the tea leaves with what Vegas gives you, what the pick and board gives you. 1 Gus Edwards catch higher than 4.5 receiving yards. And then to pair with that, I'm going to get right into my Kansas City pick, which is Justin Watson higher than 14.5 receiving yards. This one opened at 13.5. I'm still fine with 14.5. By the way, it's 16.5 on some books right now. This, another one, if you're scared off the last few games, this is not for you, because last game, 0 receiving yards for Justin Watson. But not all games, not all matchups are created equal. The Baltimore Ravens, we know who they are on defense. They have an elite coverage team, probably the best just coverage unit of the 4 playoff teams remaining. They're going to be focused on Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice. They should be, right? They shouldn't be, bracketing Justin Watson. Justin Watson, we know what his role is. We know who he is by now, right? He's going to sometimes win a matchup or 2 downfield in an entire game. This is essentially 1 catch for him, because if you look at the games where, if you look at his ADOT, he's number 3 among all NFL wide receivers in ADOT. He's going to get 1 or 2 deep shots in this game, and Patrick Mahomes' job, just connect once with him, really, because you look at his receptions line on the books, it's the same. Over 1.5 receptions, it's the same price as the over on receiving yards. And Justin Watson, given his profile, he's probably going to do this on 1 catch. So given that the books kind of think that over 1.5 receptions is a good look, since it's juiced to -120, give me Justin Watson over 14.5 receiving yards. He's done this in 70% of Patrick Mahomes' games when he throws at least 30 passes. The attempts line for Patrick Mahomes is 36.5, even though it was a run-first game last week. That's for good reason, and I know Trevor's about to talk more about this game. But my 2-piece, Gus Edwards, higher than 4.5 receiving yards. Justin Watson, higher than 14.5 receiving yards. About as degen as it can get, but that's the Ahaan card.
And I'm going to tell you on that one. So they
W co-host.
Yeah, it's the Gus Edwards. I have to tell Gus Edwards receiving yards, pick him. I have to. It's just principle. So that's it's an interesting spot. Yep. I'll be interesting. I'm not sure what they're going to do running back wise. I mean, I feel like last week they kind of showed Malkin said, hey, like this is going to be our plan, right, going forward in the playoffs, and Lamar's our running back, and you guys just fill in, like against a very good defense. So interesting spot, but we're going to stick with that game. So before we get to the Niners, so we're going to Patty Mahomes. I think this pick'em is just. I think it's just off for what it is. We're going over 36.5 passing attempts. And you have to remember, like, they're probably going to be in a negative game script while KC's defense has been good, right? We've seen what Baltimore's done to everybody. And Baltimore is, I believe, 29th or 30th now in the league at quarterback pass attempts. Well, why are they there? It's because most teams are playing from behind. So you're going to get in a negative game script and go from behind, right? We just saw, like, even Brock Purdy went higher. Brock doesn't have over 30 attempts hardly in a game. He had 32 against Baltimore when the 49ers got murdered by them. But
and
Lawrence
he was pulled in the first drive of the fourth quarter, I think. So that was
he didn't play the whole game,
yeah.
right? But Trevor Lawrence went for 43. Stafford went for 41. Herbert went for 44. Even Tua in the Snow Bowl, like that frozen game, had 38 pass attempts. Even with the weather, they're going to have to throw. They're not going to be able to run on Baltimore this week. And I don't know who's going to catch the ball. Like, that's the challenge with this offense, right? We saw MVS have 2 receptions in a game last week. Old frying pan hands actually had a couple receptions. Like, it's why I like the Watson play. As you said, generally it's just one catch. We're not going to talk about him. If you guys are watching on stream right now, Ahaan should be ashamed of himself for what he's showing.
I zoomed into Mecole Hardman. It's just a question. If the Kansas City Chiefs lose this game, I'm gonna be questioning all season long why they thought that Mecole Hardman was the solution to any of their depth issues. But anyway, go on.
Yep. I actually think Kelsey's going to have a big game. That's Baltimore's 1 week spot has been to tight ends. So I actually like Kelsey, but I don't want to have to rely on any of that. So again, right, Mahomes has gone out. We've seen him, right? He's hit he's hit this 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 10. He's hit this 11 times this season. So I think this is a spot in a must-win game to get back to the Super Bowl. We're going to go with Patty Mahomes over his passing attempts. Also, this guys, if you're listening, this is going to go up to 37.5. It's already starting to see some movement at sportsbooks. So take it there. Now we get to go on to my game. In case you're newer to this and you're just listening to one of the first times, I am a lifelong, hardcore, diehard 49ers fan. I have been to a lot of games. Like, I went to my wife and I, we lived in San Francisco for years. We would attend multiple games. Like, I went to the last game at Candlestick. We were at the game against New Orleans when there was the 4 touchdowns in the last 5 minutes. And we came back and Vernon Davis got that touchdown. And there's I've been to a lot of games. So I'm a Niner diehard. I'm also like making money. So I'm not afraid to go against, but this isn't the spot. So we're going to start with the most disrespected man in football right now, Brock Purdy. The hate on Purdy is ridiculous. I don't understand it. I don't get where we're going. And we're going to go over his fantasy points here. His passing line opened up this week at 255.5. It's now, his higher lower is now 279.5. That's a massive, massive move. And it should be, because Detroit can't stop the pass. In case you're unaware and you've been living under a rock, Detroit had a fairly easy schedule this year. But their secondary is booty, right? They just gave up 9 181 and 1 to Puka. They just gave up 8 147 and 1 to Stafford. Crushed them. Stafford had 367 and 2. Baker had 349 and 3. And the Lions have continued to run more zone recently because it's helping them slow down the run. And they have to. You have to try to slow down CMC here. So I want to take advantage of his passing touchdowns. His passing touchdown line opened up at 155.5. It's now 225 at places, minus 225. As you see here, to go over 2.5, it's a spicy pick because of how they juiced it. So I like it that way, but I think this is Brock's spot. I think Brock's throwing for 350. I think he's throwing 3 or 4 touchdowns, but we also don't know if Debo is going to play. I think it's 60-40 he does right now, and I'll talk about why it's starting to go that way for me. And then, right, I don't want to be tied to any one person's touchdowns. So I don't care if he throws 2 to Kittle, 2 to Debo, 1 to Juszczyk. Like, I don't care where he goes with it, right? I want to get Purdy's 3 or 4 touchdowns. I want to get his yardage, and fantasy points is a great way to do that. And our team at Player Profiler models this over. So it's a double win for me. Love the spot. I think Brock gets it done. And we're going over his fantasy points. Now we're going to pair this up with Brandon Aiyuk. And we're going Aiyuk over 77.5 receiving yards on the higher here. Now, this was 80.5 when I wrote the article about this 30 minutes ago. This has moved down 3 yards, which leads me to believe they know Debo's going to play. That's why this would move down. If this is moving down, they have information we just don't have yet. That leads me to believe that they think Debo's going to play. You heard me just talk about it, right? I broke it down very simply. We saw what Puka did. We saw what Evans did. And Aiyuk is going to eat in this game. Like, this is like the dream and nuts matchup of like all we can ask for. Aiyuk has had 7 100-yard games this season. He leads the Niners in target share, and it's just insane. Now you have to remember, on top of this, Detroit is actually, I would say, above average at stopping good running backs. I think they played some weaker running backs, so their running numbers are a little skewed because of who they played. But they've also done well against better backs. But Aiyuk, if they run that zone, if they run cover 3, cover 4, Ayuk's just going to go sit over the middle from the outside and go. They also give up 127.9 yards to outside receivers a game. This is just the dream matchup. I'm glad we got Detroit here. We got them at home. Detroit, I don't remember what day it was. They were talking about when the last time they played an outside game was. It was like months ago. The weather's going to be great. Levi's going to be loud, and the Niners are going to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to lock this in for our play for 2 for 50, and I am locked in. And I'm playing all of our picks as a 5er this week.
I'm not going to do that, but because I'm disciplined, man. I'm gonna do a separate 5 pick. I'm probably gonna mix in a couple of yours from the pick generator, a couple of mine from the pick generator. That's what I'm gonna do for my 5 pick.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. But I have tailored this 3-piece. Trevor, you said that Brock Purdy was the most disrespected man in football. I think he's disrespected right now, but I would argue he's not even the most disrespected 49er. I think it's Brandon Aiyuk, because Brandon Aiyuk keeps getting put out of top 10 wide receiver conversations like every single year, even after the performance he's put up this year, now that he actually has a quarterback. Brandon Aiyuk, to me, has been the most underrated star wide receiver ever since he's gotten into the league. The route running, like, you remember when Chad Ochocinco was crying about Devontae Adams' route running? Like, that's how I feel about Brandon Aiyuk. Like, this is one of the best route runners in football. I agree with you. I think Debo's going to play in this game, given that people got on the Aiyuk train early this week because of the Debo might be out stuff. They're facing Detroit, etc. On some sportsbooks, it moved up to 84.5. So I like that we're getting a discount, because if anything, if Debo plays, he might be on a pitch count. Even if he's not on a pitch count, I think you can still put up 100. I mean, everybody's putting up 100. And last week, if you followed the underdog pick generator, if you followed our show, I put Chris Godwin as in the main entry. I guessed wrong which wide receiver was going to drop 100 yards. Sue me, okay? But someone is, and it's probably going to be Brandon Aiyuk in this one. But don't sleep on Michigan boy Ronnie Bell. He was inactive last week. People are saying he's in the doghouse. I don't know if people have 49er sources that I don't, but if he plays, Ronnie Bell's scoring a touchdown. I'm calling it right now. I already have it.
Ooh, I like it. It'll be interesting. I think this is a use check TD week. So, and I went with him. He was it was for 0.1 unit, but he was, I had him for one last week. I might have him for first TD again. And you talked about, I developed some stuff for first TDs, that I modeled myself to figure out how to work them better this year, because I think there's a lot of value in them if you do them right. And I've had a run. I've had a run on first TDs this year. It's ridiculous. So I'll take it. I will have some plays for each game for first TDs. So you can follow me out on Twitter, and I'll get them there. And I'll give a little sneak peek to those who are listening right now. The tight end we just talked about in that first game, Mr. Andrews, is very inappropriately priced somewhere right now compared to other places for the first TD, and it's egregiously off by it's like five. The line should be 850, 880, and we got it for 1,300. So go check that out. That's right. We know that's a great spot for him. It's a spot they could be beat. So there's just too much value there on that one.
I know I can say this because I know our audience is mature. I'm horny. Put that as a quote, Jason. Put that on our quote board. Once again, our picks for today. My two-piece for the Ravens Chiefs game: Justin Watson higher than 14.5 receiving yards. Gus Edwards higher than 4.5 receiving yards. Trevor's three-piece: Patrick Mahomes higher than 36.5 passing attempts, and a stack of Brock Purdy higher than 20.55 fantasy points, and Brandon Aiyuk higher than 77.5 receiving yards. We still haven't. Am I correct that there's been some pushes involved? There's been some get our money back because of the injury in the first half involved, but we still haven't had a 5-0 on the show. How perfect would it be if we head into the Super Bowl with a 5-0? Next week, we're going to be back Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're not here live with us on Facebook and YouTube, and you don't have a real excuse, then you're missing out, because by the time the projections move, we're going to have, so there's obviously a break before the Super Bowl, but we're going to have a show. It's going to be our last show of the season next week, Friday, whatever date that is. I can't do math. It is the 2nd of February, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. But if you want to, talk to us in the comment section, come to YouTube, and we're going to craft our Super Bowl entries. Trevor, I'm excited for however the Super Bowl lands. I hope for my bets and for you being in a good mood for our last episode that the 49ers are in it. But other than that, let's just hope we see some good football.
Yeah, I'd like a couple good games. I think it's going to be good. I said my only worry is that our game might not be great to watch because we just run them out of the building. There's that opportunity, because guys, remember, when bad Detroit shows up, they're still real bad. But it's been a great run. I like the Lions, and I'm excited for this weekend. And let's go Niners.
With that, we'll see you next week for the Super Bowl show, Friday, February 2nd, 4:30 p.m. after we go 5-0.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.